Ash from Super Videos back for another Q&A video. This is going to be Q&A number 40. So as always, if you're not caught up with the Walking Dead's TV show and comic book, don't watch the video because it may spoil things for you. So let's get right into this. The first question comes from Chandler Patterson. He asks, if Abraham didn't get Lucille by Negan and became a walker, who do you think would kill him, Sasha or Rosita? So I think both of those characters are strong candidates to put him down if Abraham were to become a walker, but I think Sasha would probably be number one because of course Abraham and Sasha had that last moment connection. They were in love and they made each other happy. So I think in terms of storytelling and in terms of what Abraham would want and how that whole story arc would be completed in a good way, it would be the best thing for it to be Sasha. But that's a good question. The next question comes from Mystery Gamer. You ask, what would you prefer if you were in this situation? And after I asked you, you said you mean the situation with the season 7 finale, season 7 episode 16. So I'm assuming you mean if I were Rick, what would I do? So if I were Rick, I would probably not do what Rick did because obviously what Rick did was risky because Shiva and King Ezekiel and the other people came to the rescue. But if they didn't, then that would be the end of Carl because Negan was ready to kill Carl. So if I were Rick, I would not piss Negan off that much in that specific moment. I would still show him that I'm confident, but not to that extent, so that it would risk everyone else's life. But that's a good question. The next question you have is, what characters do you think will be introduced in Season 8? So, I don't think there's going to be any new characters introduced. I think we may just see characters from these different communities that were really there, but we never saw them. But I don't think there's going to be any new characters per se. And then you ended with great video, and I can't wait for April 19th. So, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. And in terms of April 19th, after I asked you again, you said you mean 29th. Yeah, and I can't wait either. And for those of you who don't know, April 29th is the day I'm going to be doing my live stream. So I'm going to do a live stream for the channel, the first one, and it's going to be on April 29th. So the time is at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So I'm expecting all of you fans of the channel and also people who enjoy the video to come on by and let me know what you think and chat with me on the live channel. The next question comes from Derkuchen. You ask, could Shiva survive all-out war? So if they're gonna stick with the comics, probably not, but other than that, they can do anything. I hope that Shiva lives longer because in the comics, I feel like in the comics, the tiger died pretty early on during the war and they could have stuck with him more. But again, at the same time, in the TV show, CGI costs a lot. So because of that, they may not be able to kind of have all of these crazy scenes with Shiva. So they're either going to just kill it off or have it so that the tiger doesn't have a lot of scenes. But I think they're just going to stick with the comics and kill Shiva in the same manner during the war. Maybe a bit later on in the war, but I still think they're going to kill it off. The next question comes from Woltex33. You ask, do you think that Andrea's death will drive Rick into madness and make him be like Negan? So you're talking about the comics, and I agree with you that it's going to push him to become a Rick we've not seen for a while, but I don't think he's going to become like Negan. I think he might just give up and be done with leading and everything and things like that, but I don't think that he's going to be like Negan. That's a good question. The next question comes from Pika Universe, and you ask, will Eugene go to Rick's side? And if he does, how will he betray Negan? I definitely think that Eugene is going to turn sides again, most likely around the time the war starts, officially, like when the first battles take place. In terms of how he's going to betray Negan, he could do it in a variety of ways. One would be for him to kind of make a pact with Dwight, and for both of them to act as inside men. I think that's the way it's gonna go. The next question comes from Carmen DeJesus. You ask, will Season 9 be the new beginning? I believe so. I believe the first half of Season 9 is gonna deal with the new beginning arc, for sure. The next question you have is, will Season 8 be just All Out War and the Whisper War? I don't think it's gonna be the Whisper War. Definitely not. All Out War, yeah, I think Season 8 is going to be All Out War. I don't know how the structure is going to be, if it's going to be one half or both halves, but I definitely think that it's going to be both halves. Now, in terms of the Whisperer War, I think it's way too early for the Whisperer War. We still need to see the Whisperers before the Whisperer War, and I don't think that's happening anytime before Season 9. So, that's definitely going to be in Season 9. Even if All Out War is just one half, the second half is going to be the new beginning, and the Whisperer's introduction is going to be Season 9. And the Whisperer War is most likely going to be the second half of that season, Season 9. So they're not coming in Season 8. That's a great question. The next question comes from the one and only bad guy. You ask, do you think Rick will grow that epic beard one last time just like he did in Season 5? I think he might. I'm not sure. It'll be pretty epic if he does. We're going to have to wait and see. If he does, it'll be pretty epic if it's at the end of the war. So if at the end of the war, once everything is done, we see Negan in front of Rick and Rick has this epic beard, that would be pretty cool. The next question comes from Squidly TV. You ask, should Jadis get Alpha's comic death? Nope, I don't think so, because Jadis and Alpha are two different characters. So because of that, they're going to have two entirely different deaths. So yeah. But I do see where you're coming from, because of course in the comics, Alpha and Negan have this thing, and in the show, there's kind of like a thing between Jadis and Negan as well. So I kind of understand where you're coming from with your question, so it's not out there, but I just don't think that it's going to happen, because in my opinion, Jadis and Alpha are different. The next question comes from Jig Jig Almandra's the Goose. What will be your conclusion for the entire season? And what is the moral lesson that we could get from the show? So if you're talking about Season 7, what my conclusion is for Season 7, I think it's probably that if these different communities make an alliance, they can defeat Negan. That's the main conclusion we can get from this season. And in terms of the moral lesson of the story, of the show, I think the moral lesson of the story is survival does not overtake your humanity and your morality. Even though you're going to have to do things to survive, there's a limit on what you need to do to survive. Because if you're doing things to survive that are immoral and break your code, even in that world, then it's not worth surviving for. And it's not worth living for, because you're breaking your morals. And that's what I think the moral lesson of the show is. But that's a great question. The next question comes from AJYT Abbott, and you ask, do you think Heath could come back for the war? How about Oceanside? I think for Heath, it's really tough to say. He might come back during the war. If he does, it's going to be most likely in the second half of the war, not the first half of the war, whenever that takes place. But it's just difficult to say, because we still don't know where he is, who took him, and they're going to have to explain it. It doesn't make sense for Heath to be gone for this long if there's no specific reason for it. And I definitely think that Gimple has a reason for it. So yeah, but in terms of a guess on when I think he's gonna come back, I think it's gonna be most likely Season 9, but maybe at the end of Season 8. And you say, how about Oceanside? I definitely think Oceanside is coming back for the war, for sure, because they set him up a lot in Season 7, way more than they did in the comics. So because of that, I think they're going to have to come back in one way, shape, or form in the war. The next question comes from Final Mystery T. You have 3 questions. The first one, can Rick be rebroken by Negan or by anybody again? Nope, I don't think so. I think Negan was the first and only person to break Rick. I think Rick will never be in that situation again. He will never be in that spot again. He would rather die than be in that spot again. So yeah. The next question you have is, if Sasha didn't take the pill, how do you think the outcome would have been? So if she didn't take the pill, obviously when Negan opened the casket, she would come out. Then, as Negan said, Rick had to choose someone to get Lucille. And I just don't see Rick going through with it and actually picking someone. There would have been a firefight, and I think Sasha would definitely have been shot, maybe even more people. So yeah, I think Sasha taking the pill, she ended up actually saving some people, for sure. The next question you have is, would Daryl ever forgive Rick if he spares Negan's life like he does in the comics? That's actually a pretty cool question. That's an interesting question. I think Daryl may not forgive Rick, at least not in the short run. In the long run, yeah, probably, but not in the short run. I think when Daryl finds out that Rick is not gonna kill Negan, he's gonna be pretty pissed off. So yeah, and I definitely think that's gonna be some great animosity between those two characters who are very close, if that were to happen. And it would be very interesting to see, to be honest. That's actually a pretty good question. The next question comes from The Gaming Wolf. You ask, how do you think Dwight will handle Sherry's death from 166? And do you think he'll turn on Rick? I think there will be a moment of Dwight just saying screw it and betray Rick, but I think it's going to be very short and subtle. I think he's going to come to his senses pretty quickly, and there's probably not going to be a lot of animosity between those two characters going forward after that. But I definitely think Dwight will not handle it well initially. I think there's definitely going to be some anger coming from Dwight as soon as he finds out that Sherry has died and Rick is responsible for it. The last question comes from Royal Skink 35 Royal, and you ask, since season 8 is obviously going to be all out war, if all out war does take up the entire season, will season 9 start off with a 2 or 3 year time jump, kind of like the comics? I want that to happen for sure. I don't know if they're gonna keep it or not, but I want to see that happen. I want there to be the time jump, because in my opinion, the time jump is important because it shows the transition from the war to them rebuilding and to them becoming a new community and becoming stronger. So yeah, I want to see it happen, but whether they're gonna stick with it or not, I'm not quite sure. That's it for this Q&A video. Thank you for participating. If you want to participate in my next Q&A video, write your questions in the comment section below. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.